Hi, and welcome back to our Ask the Agronomist video series. I am Phil Long, Precision Agronomy Advisor with Latham High-Tech Seeds. And this week, we're going to have a little bit of an update on soybeans and where they're at growth stage-wise. So if you're questioning where your growth stage is at, stick around. We're going to go through how to growth stage soybeans this time of year. It's a common question that I get a lot, so I got a couple different soybeans here to kind of walk through the process. So the first thing that I do when I'm growth staging soybeans, I like to pull them out of the ground and kind of look from the bottom up, especially at this point in the year. It's going to be easier. I'll show you why, but it just makes it easier to find the nodes, and you can kind of follow it along the stem. So just to give you a little bit of background, I've got a 1.7 here. This is our 1750 83s, and then I've got our 3086s Extend Flex. So you can tell very different growth habits, or styles in terms of how quickly they get through stages is more apparent here too. The length between nodes is obvious in these two, but these are going to be good examples. So the first thing I want to do, we're going to start with the 3 O's here. Walk your way up from the ground level, and if you're not pulling the plant out, this is where you figure out which node you're at. You just feel the nodes on the stem. The first one is going to be opposite. You'll feel 2 leaf scars. That's where the cotyledonary node was. The next one's going to be your unifoliate scars. Those are also going to be opposite. So you'll feel on each side of the stem there on both of those. So for V stages, you start at the next one. You won't feel a scar on the other side of the stem because they're going to be alternate now. So there's going to be a leaf out here, a leaf out here. You can see they're alternate on the stem. So you find that first one, that's going to be your V1 or your first trifoliate. At this point, it's already dropped off, as they will as we get further in the season. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this top one here is 10, and that's definitely a true full leaf, fully developed. This next one, the leaflets are touching. The leaflets on this trifoliate are still touching, so they're not considered a true leaf yet. So we're looking at 10 nodes on this plant. However, you see there's a flower on one of the top 2 nodes, so that makes it R2. If we have a flower on anywhere in the plant, it's R1. If it's on one of the top 2 nodes, it's R2, so full flower. We're probably a good 10 to 15 days out, depending on maturity, from R3 before we see that 1/4 inch size pod on one of the top 4 nodes. Remember, when you get to this point in the season, you have to go from looking at the top 2 nodes for R1 and R2 to the top 4 nodes for the rest of the R stages. So then we look at the top 4 nodes because remember, it continues to grow, continues to put on more nodes. So it kind of gets somewhat challenging to see because the stages, typically an indeterminate plant is going to develop from the middle out typically, so that's going to be less developed at the top of the plant. So let's look at our other soybean we got here, the 1.7. This one's a little more easier and apparent to see those opposite leaves. That's the unifoliate node. You can still see them on there. Cotyledonary nodes up here at closer to the ground. So if we strip those branches off, you can see this one's definitely more branched. So this would be our first true trifoliate, or V1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So despite their difference in height for sure, we've got plants here that are pretty much identical in terms of V stages. They were planted the same day, so they both have 10 leaves on them, and they also both have flowers on the top 2 nodes. This one does not have a small pod developed at the top 4, so it's obviously not at R3 yet. Like I said, this one's probably a little closer to R3 than this one is here, but it's probably still a good 10 days or so out from R3. So it's important to understand that. Especially when we're looking at fungicide timing coming up here really soon. R3 is that critical time as we're getting into, that would be beginning pod, beginning to start to fill those pods and then into seed fill. It's important to understand that. Oops, I broke that one off. But just to give you an idea, as you're out in the field looking at different maturities and so forth of soybeans, the difference in internode length between them is definitely different between the 3.0 and the 1.7. You can tell not only in the height when I had them up before, but there's some good internode length in between here. So this is going to be a much taller plant, obviously a later maturity, but just make sure as you're out there scouting this time of the year that you keep paying attention to those top 4 nodes once we get past R2. That's really what's key for determining the staging and so forth on whether to apply fungicide or not. So we don't have any diseases out here yet that I'm concerned about. But once we get a little bit closer, I'll share more insight and so forth into fungicides and fungicide timing on soybeans. So if you have any questions about staging soybeans, please feel free to reach out to us at 1-877-GO-LATHAM or visit us on our website at lathamseeds.com. Thanks for watching this week's Ask the Agronomist.